y'all, it's Jennifer. I just wanted to talk to y'all about a question I get all the time. So basically, I teach a outpatient nutrition group at the hospital that I work at, and this is a very vocal group of people. They always have lots of questions. They're really great. So different things kind of happen, but basically their question always, all the time, is why is nutrition research always changing? Why are eggs good for us and then bad for us? Why is keto healthy but Mediterranean diet is healthy? Things like that. So why is research not consistent? Or why are recommendations not consistent? So there's a lot of reasons behind this and stuff. So I just wanted to kind of go over a couple of things that may be happening and why this kind of perception that nutrition research is not consistent. What I worry about and what I see every once in a while is that I hear this comment that, well, if research isn't consistent, y'all don't know what you're talking about. Why should I listen to you? Why should I follow your recommendations and things like that? Because they hear all of these differing research proofs and studies and facts and blah 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 around. So I just created this video to kind of help explain some of the things that's going on when you get that perception. So the short answer is nutrition research is not changing constantly. When you see media reports based on a study or anything like that, these reports are designed to grab attention. They are a business. They do need you to click on their links. They need you to see the ads, the videos, different things like that. So say Jim Bob down the street doesn't eat vegetables. Well, he hasn't had a heart attack, so he starts to tell all of his friends about his true reason for his health is that he doesn't eat any vegetables, and he tells everybody about this. It's true, vegetables, don't protect you from heart attack. They're bad for you. That's why I don't eat them, right? Another example, Nancy heard someone say on Facebook or a news report or something like that alkaline water can cure cancer. So she tells everybody, right? You don't need chemo, you don't need radiation, you don't need to see a doctor, you need alkaline water, or that it prevents cancer, or whatever she heard. She tells everybody about this, and she can quote these sources that she has, and maybe she's convincing. Maybe she convinced your mom or your friend or whatever, right? When these things kind of happen, this research that they're quoting to make these claims, they are based on misleading claims. They're unscientifically founded. Somebody just put something out there, they just made this up because they needed more likes on their Facebook group or just, whatever reason, that kind of thing. So I just kind of want y'all to kind of figure out or learn how to kind of find these red flags. So this first misconception that we see is that these studies are showing things that maybe they're not. What happens is that headlines are exaggerated. They're oversimplified. We have this really intricate 10-page study, and they sum it up in 30 seconds. We're obviously going to miss something in that, right? Another thing that we see reported is that correlation between two things is presented as a causation. So let's take cigarettes, for example. The very first study to link cigarettes to cancer was probably a correlation study. They said that we see a higher incidence of lung cancer in people that smoke. So that first study did not prove that cigarettes caused the cancer. It proved that there is some kind of link that, maybe there's something going on in people that do this. But that doesn't mean that maybe there's more smokers in the city and it's car exhaust fumes that were causing it. Or maybe people that smoke are less active and it's the inactivity. We don't really know that. More studies were required. Eventually, we know that there is a causation. Cigarette smoke causes cancer. But that correlation is not proof, right? We also see that a single study is proclaimed to be scientific fact. Nothing in a single study is proclaimed to be a scientific fact. And if you see the first study on whatever topic it is, usually at the bottom of the discussion, it'll say, we need more research. We need this type of study. We need bigger studies. We need it to be repeated. So one study does not equal scientific fact, and we have to keep that in mind. That is why in this email that I get every day, I get an email that's like studies that have come out that might be pertaining to dietitians, that kind of thing. About once a week, something seemingly silly comes across, such as eating excess calories leads to weight gain. Somebody studied this. We know that eating too many calories makes you gain weight, right? But to make this a complete scientific body of evidence where we can prove this and we can rely on this, we have to have different studies. We have to have the same study repeated. We have to have a different study leading to the same results. So anytime somebody says this one study proves this, that's just not true. One study does not prove anything. Secondly, nutrition studies are really hard. People are fallible. really have to rely on someone, if I'm running a study, to tell me the truth about what they ate last week, or that they're keeping an accurate diary, right? So what we really, really want is these large studies. And so say I am studying the sugar intake of 2,000 people and trying to link that to colon cancer, right? I can't follow every one of those 2,000 people and know everything that went into their mouth. So we rely on this, right? So say I'm in this study and I don't want the researcher to know that I ate 4 packages of peanut butter cups last night, so I tell them I had 1. Well, now my results are skewed. That is a quart of the actual sugar that I ate last night, but this is what I'm reporting. So there is some fallibility in people. Sometimes they just forget. If I were to come up to you and say, what did you eat for dinner 3 nights ago? You might have to think about it. You might even have to ask whoever you ate with, like, what did I get there, So there's this fallibility that is showing up, right? That we really just have to kind of do the best we can, as awful as that kind of sounds. So we just really have to deal with this human nature aspect of that, of the different studies and stuff like that. So recently the study made headlines, and this particular study is why I wanted to kind of make this video. So this study was everywhere for like a week and a half or something like that. I got a CNN alert about the study results. I saw it all over my Facebook page. People were sharing this study. My nutrition group, the outpatient group, asked me about it several times, and so we made this, I spent a whole 45 minutes talking about this particular study and kind of showing them kind of how the study was done and why the results are important, but why they were skewed in the media, right? So basically the study seemed to say that lean chicken breast was just as bad for your heart as red meat. We know that's not true. We have long, big bodies of evidence to say that we really should be skewing more towards the lean meat or lean chicken and less towards the red meat, right? So I really think what happened is that the researchers didn't get all the way to the end. So this study was phenomenally designed. I don't think I've read a study that was designed as well as this study was. I was actually really impressed with it when I read it. What the study found was that they had red meat eaters, they had chicken breast eaters, and they had vegetarians. They were lactose. They were getting their fat from milk. So basically, they found that chicken breast and red meat elevated the cholesterol by the same amount, which we kind of expect, and it was more than the vegetarians, right? So we expected the meat eaters to have a bigger increase in cholesterol levels than the vegetarians, right? What I would have expected is that the red meat would have elevated the cholesterol more because there's more saturated fat in red meat than there is in a lean chicken breast. And they ended up being the same. So the leap, when you are not a doctor or a scientist or any kind of healthcare provider, you're a reporter, is that they're both bad for your heart. You shouldn't be eating this. Oh my gosh, this might mean we have to all go vegetarian, right? But what the researchers wrote, and they were very clear in their discussion, that red meat causes increases of other measures of cardiovascular health than the chicken breast does. Most notably, those markers for like this inflammation that we see in different types of chronic diseases. Heart disease is the one we're talking about here. So there's just these different things, right? Cholesterol is not the be-all, end-all of our cardiac health. And so these other things cannot be ignored when we're taking all of the evidence together, right? So the other markers that they measured went much higher in the red meat group than the chicken group. And so we saw this elevation in risk when we had a very heavy red meat diet with these people. They also noted that other studies showed high intake of heme iron is linked to heart disease. So heme iron is found highest in red meat. It's in other meats and stuff like that, but it's really high in the red meat. And heme iron by itself has been linked to be a cardiovascular risk. So you got to kind of keep that in mind as well. We also know that red meat is shown to not just correlate to colorectal cancer. So when we take all of the evidence and all of their discussion and their literature review of other studies and things like that, we see that it really supports what we already thought, that red meat does have more detrimental effects on the heart and the body in general than just chicken. So this study really does say we should be doing more lean chicken. We should be doing maybe more vegetarian sources, maybe fish. And I know that, my niche is vegetarian, and, that's kind of where I I don't want to push anybody to be vegetarian that doesn't want to be, but if you could have, a vegetarian meal a day, or, even once a week or something like that, where you're cutting down on some of the saturated fat that you get in meat, that you're probably going to be a little better off. So consistent advice is that way for a reason. Over and over again, we see studies that show increasing intake of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains leads to better health outcomes over a longer period of time. So this means that, nobody wants to live forever and be this decrepit, weak person, right? Somebody that relies on somebody else to get dressed and to do basic activities of living. What we want is a longer life that we can enjoy, right? And so fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, when we eat those in high amounts, we see that as the result more often. So we want to kind of keep that in mind as well. That, we're having longer lives, but we're also living healthier, happier lives when we do these consistent, the advice that we're consistently given. So anytime we see advice that goes against what we see all the time that's recommended, we need to regard that as skepticism. Like, why was this study different than every other study? Why is, they're different, like, just why, basically why? We need to kind of read the whole study for ourselves, that kind of thing. Excuse me. So misconception number 2 is that we really want to believe in nutrition's power in a way that's not backed for science. We really want to know that if I eat, or if I follow these infographics, they're on Facebook and they're on, social media all the time. Instagram, I see them on. So I saw one the other day that was on cucumbers, and these people, whoever made this infographic, were claiming that cucumbers were going to better hydrate you, which there's a lot of water that might treat you. It's going to make your skin perfect. It's going to cleanse your liver, and it's going to heal your kidneys. I can't remember all the claims. It was like 6 claims that cucumbers alone were going to do. That's not really true. How great would it be if I could give you one nutrient or one food that could cure your diabetes, fix your kidneys, make you lose all of your excess weight? How awesome would it be if I could eat a carrot every day and not need to take my thyroid supplement anymore? So we really want to kind of latch onto these things. However, research does not back up claims like this. So anytime we do a study where we extract nutrients from a food, or we extract a particular food from a complete diet, we never get the results that we were wanting. So we have to kind of look at the synergy of all of the nutrients, all of the chemicals, our stress levels, if we're sleeping enough, if we live in an area with a lot of air pollution. All of those things kind of combine together that can make us healthier and healthy. We can't just rely on just one thing, right? Also, if I eat carrots every day and I truly believe it's going to cure my thyroid, but I don't eat any other vegetables except for one serving of carrots, I'm probably still not healthy, right? So there's, a lot of things that go into that. So food, this whole theory that food is medicine, it's really not. Food might prevent your need for certain medications. Your diet can do that. So if I eat my 9 servings of fruits and vegetables, I'm probably not eating a lot of saturated fat, right? So my likelihood of being obese and my likelihood of having diabetes and heart disease is lower, right? It may also work in a way that can enhance the medication that we're supposed to be taking, or the therapy, or whatever it is. But it is not by itself going to cure everything about you, right? So to kind of take that a little bit further, we can, if we are type 2 diabetic, we can use our food to control our diet and get our A1C back to normal. That does not mean that we're cured. If you go back to eating poorly, your A1C is going to go back up, right? But we can do that just with food. But if we develop type 2 diabetes, we leave it alone until our kidneys are failing, and then we decide we're going to do it. Well, we might be able to get our A1C under control, but our kidneys are still sick. So we can't use this diet to really just fix everything about us. We just really need to kind of keep that in mind, that nutrition, having good nutrition, is more of a preventative rather than anything that's going to cure anything that you have. Also, it's not going to detox you. I hear that all the time. There is no food that's going to detox you. That's what your liver and your kidneys are for. So quit, drinking charcoal or all those other things that I see on the Facebook all the time. So misconception number 3 is that all studies are performed by non-biased research in an independent lab. This is not true. It would be awesome if it was true, but it's just not feasible. So you need to pay attention to who funded the study. So if I read an independent study on the health benefits of dairy, and I read another study that shows the opposite results, and that's funded by the California Dairy Council, I'm going to put more weight in the independent study than I am one based on the Dairy Council. That does not mean that everybody that sponsors a study is skewing the results or telling the researcher to find a certain results, but we need to kind of pay attention a little bit more, right? So you need to really kind of just pay attention to what's going on there. And while we're on this topic, we really want to look at studies that have been published in a peer-reviewed journal. So basically what this means is, say I did a study that showed that if you eat 7 to 9 vegetables a day, your risk of heart disease is 75% lower, right? I take the study, all of my research, all of my discussions, my conclusions, everything like that, and I take it to the Journal of the Nutrition and Dietetics. So they go through this and they go, wait a minute, your study wasn't designed very well, and when we ran your data through our statisticians and through our computer programs, we found that maybe your results were overblown, right? We only saw a 25% reduction, right? We're not going to publish your study, right? So they can tell me you either need to fix this or just trash it. We're not publishing it. There's no way, right? So we really want to look at those that are peer-reviewed in a good journal article, basically something that's there. So if I decided, okay, well, this article or this journal is not going to publish my study, so I'm just going to publish it on my blog, and I'm going to promote it on Facebook, and I'm going to do a YouTube video about it, and I'm going to let everybody know about this study that I did. Well, 75% is a big reduction, right? But there's no scientific evidence behind that. So you really need to kind of pay attention to who's publishing the study. These journal articles that I'm talking about, all these studies that we kind of go through and that we look at, you can get most of them for free. So you can go to PubMed.com and you can research veggies and diabetes or vegetable whatever, and it'll pull all of them up. And sometimes it's just the abstract and they want you to pay for the whole thing. Just email the author. A lot of times they'll give it to you for free. Sometimes they are so tedious to read, and other times they're not. So you need to just kind of decide, and not every claim that you hear warrants like this great research. Like if I tell you to go eat a cucumber every day and your eczema is going to be cured, that you probably don't need to research that. That's not going to be true, right? Or everybody with eczema would be doing it, right? But if I tell you that chicken and red meat cause the same heart disease risk, I need to research that. I need to figure that out, especially when it's like an article like that. So just kind of, pay attention. Pick what you find interesting or, is based on personal, experiences and things like that. So misconception number 4 is that all studies are created equal. So I want you to really pay attention to how many people were studied. So if I have a study that says vegetables are good for you, and they would study 1,000 people, and then there's another study that says vegetables are bad for you, but they did 10 people, who are you going to believe more, right? A study of 1,000 people. So you really want to look at this overall, like how many people were studied in there. So there's this movement that I really don't like, and it's this N equals 1. So N is the number of people in the study. So N equal 1 is basically, it's an anecdotal study that, say that I decide to see if I eat oatmeal every day for breakfast, is it going to fix my thyroid or give me better energy, because my thyroid supplement I don't think is doing enough or something like that. So every day for 4 weeks, I eat a bowl of oatmeal. I don't put any fruit in it, any sugar, anything like that. It's a bowl of oatmeal. And then at the end of the 4 weeks, I have calculated that my energy is 25% better. Well, that's, good for me. But if somebody else did that and they had a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast and that's it, they may be more tired. There's no protein in that. They're hungry, they're cranky, they're more tired because they can't eat until lunch, and their oatmeal only lasted for 30 minutes, right? So don't eat oatmeal by itself for breakfast, y'all. So you really want to kind of look at this whole body of evidence. Everybody's going to react to things a little bit differently. So we want to kind of know what the overall trend is, and just different things like that. What's even better is something called a meta-analysis. So what this is they take every study that they can find that's linking vegetables and obesity or heart. Let's just stick with heart disease. So we eat vegetables and our risk of heart disease, right? So they scroll through tons and tons of journal articles. This is usually a big project. There's usually like several people that are reading journal articles, and there's criteria that these different articles have to meet. And then they say, okay, 10 articles, 10 studies met the requirements of what we needed for this meta-analysis. And then they say that this is our result from that. These studies are usually easier to read, right? So they don't have this big, long process in there. They don't have to tell you, we had this many patients and this is what we did, and then we did this, and then we did this, Their process is basically, we read a bunch of journal articles, these qualified, and then we now analyze it, right? So it doesn't have a lot of that like tedious kind of writing to it, I guess. I don't know how else to put that. But we want to just kind of, they're more interesting to read because it spends the large proportion of the time talking about the results rather than talking about how the study was performed. I guess that's a better way to say that. So basically, once we get this meta-analysis done, and it's 10 studies or it's 15 or 40 studies that meet the criteria for this meta-analysis, now all of a sudden we have 10,000 people that were studied for the same thing. So when 80% of those studies of these 10,000 people saw a benefit to increasing vegetables and reducing cardiovascular risk, then we can believe that a little bit more than one person. Like my cholesterol went down because I eat broccoli every day. Well, there may have been, maybe you were exercising more, maybe you were eating more vegetables than you thought you were than just broccoli and things like that. So we really want these big studies, these high volumes of people, these N equals several thousand, not N equals one or two. To kind of give you another example, months ago, my outpatient group was asking about whether or not a soy is healthy. So this is something that comes up all the time. Soy causes cancer. So women shouldn't eat it because it's going to cause breast cancer. Or men shouldn't eat it because there's estrogen in it, and that can make them be feminist, or not feminist, excuse me, it can make them feminized. And then you'll hear these, soy is considered heart healthy, and blah, 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 blah. And soy, for some reason, is given these like magical, mystical properties. Soy is a bean, right? It's a soybean. So we do consider it largely healthy. And so we were going through different things. There's fiber in it, there's protein in it. Obviously, vegetarians and vegans rely on soy to some extent. And also there are populations, Asian populations, that eat a fairly large amount when we consider, iron intake. They eat a large amount of this, and they are considered healthier than Americans, right? So I was trying to bring a bunch of different studies to them and say, like, this study said this, and, different things like that. And I came across this study that was done on 2 men. So basically, these 2 men ate like 13 servings of soy a day or something like that, which is a monstrously high amount of soy, right? People don't eat 13 servings a day. You can go to China, Japan, these places where they do eat a lot of soy products, tofu, edamame, tempeh, things like that. They're still not eating 13 servings a day. So just keep that in mind. The study was just kind of ridiculous. So basically, the study concluded that eating soy causes these feminizing effects on men. So these men had gynecomastia, which is basically a development of breast tissue, and I think there were a couple of other things that happen. So there is a phytoestrogen in soy that is, how do I want to put that? It's there. There is phytoestrogen. It is different from the estrogen that women make, and the receptors for the estrogen are different. So to say that soy causes this feminizing effect to these men, I mean, maybe 13 servings a day did, but most people aren't going to eat that. Like, I can't imagine eating 13 servings of anything. Like, what else would you have eaten except for soy for, I can't even remember how long they did it for. So we need to kind of see if these results make sense. That doesn't make sense. Who's going to do that, right? So you really just kind of need to pay attention. And there's actually a lot of studies that indicate that soy might be healthy for certain types of breast cancer. So you really need to kind of pay attention to the whole body of evidence and see if it makes sense. So what I really try to impress upon people is that there's these red flags that you need to pay attention to. When you're reading the studies too, but for sure when it's like a media report, right? So does it make sense? If it doesn't make sense, we really need to either disregard it or like figure out why it doesn't make sense. Maybe we know that for general healthy, keto diet is really high in saturated fat, and it makes some people really grumpy and angry, and a lot of times they don't sleep as well. But I see a media report that keto is good for epilepsy, right? Well, so that in that study is saying keto is good, right? But we think it's not, so we want to look at it. Well, this is a specific subset of people, right? So it makes sense for that people, but maybe not for the general population. So just because it doesn't make sense doesn't mean you have to completely disregard it, but you really need to be skeptical and wonder why it doesn't make sense. What's different? Did they study this different? Did they, lots of different things like that. And then you need to ask yourself if someone's trying to sell you something. So let's say that Jessica has a blog, and her blog is based on people with type 2 diabetes, and she writes this big long blog post about how awesome chromium is for reducing sugar cravings, right? So you should do this sugar chromium, you need to get it, here's where you get it from your diet, but you really need it from a supplement. By the way, here's a supplement that I recommend, and she gets money when you go buy that, right? So if they're trying to sell you something either that they've created or it's an affiliate, kind of thing, you really need to see if that's the end goal, right? So going back to the keto thing, nowadays you'll see keto's awesome, you're going to lose all this weight and you're going to feel amazing and you're going to have all this energy and your cholesterol is going to go down, and here's a nice supplement that will make sure you go into ketosis, right? That's probably where they're trying to lead you. They want you to buy this product that's going to force you into ketosis, right? So just kind of pay attention to stuff like that. Where I see this the most is these celebrity doctors. There is one doctor that has this show that is very, very popular, and we're going to leave his name out of this, but he has been sued. He has been brought before Congress because he has put out these unfounded claims saying that coffee bean extract is going to make you lose weight, or if you do, it's just this whole big, that's what his whole show is based on, is promoting these products. He gets on magazine covers, he creates his own line of these supplements, and he gets all this money. But none of it is really based in scientific research, and we really kind of have to pay attention because he's a doctor. He is truly a doctor, and this is somebody that we should trust. So you really gotta have to pay attention and make sure, and just some of these supplements are just not, it's pushing a product. So you really gotta pay attention to stuff like that and make sure that you're actually being told research and evidence and suggestions and advice and stuff like that for the intent to make you healthier rather than to earn money off of you. So just kind of pay attention to stuff like that. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions, or if you have something. I want to make these videos more often because I think there's a lot of this confusion and really just a lot of questions that a lot of y'all have that a lot of other people do. So let me know what your questions are in the comments. You can visit my website, dietitianjen.com, if you want to read about other things. I have a couple of diet reviews and a couple of just general kind of advice. It's general, it's not meant for any particular condition or anything like that, but just let me know. And then also just let me know if I just kind of muddied the waters and I didn't answer a question, and maybe I brought up more questions that I could answer for you. If you have any questions, again, in the comments, dietitianjen.com. Thank you.